we have this story. This is from Ballotpedia. West Virginia Amendment 1, prohibit medically assisted suicide, euthanasia, and mercy killing measure. The reason I want to talk about this is that I just voted today in West Virginia, and one of the ballot amendments is West Virginia Amendment 1. It was the most insane thing I have ever seen, and I know a lot of you have dealt with this stuff before. It's a very serious issue. West Virginia is trying to ban medically assisted suicide, mercy killing, euthanasia, etc. But the on the ballot, it said something like, I'm going to try and get as much as I can. West Virginia Amendment 1 amends the Constitution to protect West Virginians against medically assisted suicide. Are you for or against this? What does that mean? And I'm sitting there being like, whoa. My vote on this is going to determine whether or not they're going to have euthanasia in West Virginia. And I can't understand what they're asking me. And so I tried clicking it like, can you read me the amendment? No, the amendment is unavailable. I didn't know the amendment was actually on the ballot measure. That's my bad, I guess. And so I'm sitting there staring at the screen and being like, what am I for or against an amendment to the Constitution to protect against medically assisted suicide? What does that mean, to protect against it? What does the amendment even say? Is it going to say something like, to protect them from liability, we are going to allow it? I don't know what it says, so how am I supposed to vote on it? Let me read you what this says, and I'll break. So Ballotpedia tries to break it down for you. Understand, if you are voting on this measure and you get this wrong, you may be voting to allow euthanasia. Good luck figuring this one out. It says, a yes vote supports amending the West Virginia Constitution to prohibit people from participating in the practice of medically assisted suicide, euthanasia, or mercy killing of a person. A no vote opposes amending the West Virginia Constitution to prohibit people from participating in the practice of medically assisted suicide, euthanasia, or mercy killing of a person. Who wants to take a stab at which one of those will prohibit medically assisted suicide?
Yes.
Not me.
Why would the yes?
The yes creates an amendment to prohibit. The no doesn't create the amendment to prohibit.
How about this? Let's add a comma. A no vote opposes amending the West Virginia Constitution, comma, to prohibit people from the practice of medically assisted suicide.
Is there a comma?
No, but it doesn't matter because you don't.
So confusing.
You don't actually need a comma to interpret the second. So I'm reading this being like, wait. I don't know what the amendment says. So if I vote no, is opposing the amendment prohibiting? Is the amendment to allow a medically assisted suicide or to bar it? I don't know.
You gotta have
I understand
books.
the point you're making here. Yeah.
I'm sitting there staring at this being like, if you don't tell me what the amendment does, how can I support it?
How do they?
And both of these right here can be interpreted to describe allowing or barring the practice.
I feel like they should have a booklet at every polling booth where with all the amendments in the booklet, you open it up and you can read it. You have to. Otherwise, why? Otherwise, you're just getting uninformed voting, and maybe that's what they want.
I felt like the craziest part when I was looking at the New York ones, that they clump things together. That to me, that's nuts. Where the main one was because they know abortion's popular. Where they're like, they have an amendment where they go, we're going to make New York like a sanctuary place where no matter what the federal thing does, New York stays this. And then also in that same one, they go, and we're going to add a thing that you get basically some sort of treatment because of your, no discrimination by gender and gender identity. And it was like trans stuff. Yep. And it was like they combined the two of them and they had nothing to do with each other, but they combined them. And it was like, that seems like crazy to just take two random things and put them together. And they did that a lot. So it's just legitimately two completely different things.
I did figure it out. I am for this amendment. And it's crazy because I bet tons of people go in there and say, well, I don't want medically assisted suicide, but I don't know what yes or no means. Because a no vote could be saying, if Democrats are trying to add an amendment to allow it, you want to be opposed to it. I don't know who's proposing what and what it does. However, I was able to read the amendment. No person, physician, or healthcare provider in the state of West Virginia shall participate in the practice of medically assisted suicide, euthanasia, or mercy killing of a person. Nothing in this section prohibits the administration or prescription of medication for the purpose of alleviating pain or discomfort while the patient's conditions follows its natural course, nor does anything in this section prohibit the withholding or withdrawing of life-sustaining treatment as requested by the patient or the patient's decision maker in accordance with the state law. Further, nothing in this section prevents the state from providing capital punishment. I actually think that's extremely well written and gets to the point. If you are terminal, you can say, stop giving me this treatment. If you are terminal and you want painkillers, They can't deny you that because of fear that it might terminate your life if you take too many. However, if you are otherwise healthy, they cannot help you kill yourself.
Well, also,
Democrats don't want that. Democrats, the ACLUs of West Virginia, do not want a provision that would prohibit this. They want a circumstance to be possible in West Virginia where a doctor can say, well, you're otherwise healthy, but we're going to help you die.
Yeah, so there's another aspect of this, which is that they will tangle up refusing care with being euthanized, right, and assisted suicide, which are totally different things. So if somebody feels that the care they're receiving is too burdensome, they're able to refuse that and choose not to take the treatment. Because people will ask, well, how can you be against allowing people to make that kind of a decision? But that's not what we're talking about. That's already allowed. What these laws are talking about is making it legal to intervene to kill the person, which is a totally different thing from just withdrawing care from somebody who's having extremely burdensome treatments.
It's crazy, too, because one of the advocacy groups says, never before has legislature in this country mobilized to an attack like this on terminally ill patients. Isn't this the lie Democrats always push? This is not at all the argument for the amendment. The amendment's like, if you are terminally ill, you can reject and refuse treatment. And they're going, yeah, but what if we want to administer death? No, you can't do that. Sorry. But the problem is, and why I will always be opposed to any kind of provision that would allow medical assistance in death, it's because you know for a fact they will expand it to the most extreme degree imaginable. Mm-hmm. So you get not a single inch from me. If we say yes to this, and we allow medically assisted suicide, in 3 years, they'll be offering medically assisted suicide to teenagers without their parents' knowledge.
I like the right to try stuff where if there's like experimental drugs and people are terminal that they can go
Trump's for it. I agree.
Yeah, psilocybin, like crazy psychoactive therapies and things for people that are like have nowhere else to go. I'm open to that kind of stuff. But yeah, like a lot of people that are coming up on the end of their life, they say when they take
Ian's
psilocybin,
like, I would like a right to try.
Right to trip.
That's what you're talking about. That people will find comfort with death. It just the impending death, their own death, their mortality after a psilocybin trip that's been documented. I'm open to that kind of stuff, but I don't know. The jury's kind of out on assisted suicide because I am concerned that they will be like, well, have you thought about?
Listen, like as far as policy goes, it's probably not a good idea. My father passed away of cancer about 25 years ago. He was I was like in early 20s, and like when they told him it was terminal, they gave him a bottle of morphine, and I swear to God, the guy used a shoehorn to get the pills in there, right? Like, and I imagine that's what I can't speak for other doctors or whatever, but they knew my dad was going to die. They're like, here you go, be comfortable, right? And they gave him a boatload of morphine, enough morphine to kill a horse, definitely. And I imagine that's what most doctors do generally. And most people say, we're not going to, we're going to turn the other way.
Saying that, like, as the alternative is this guy like chokes to death for the next week or whatever.
Exactly. And it's like, look, to have a system where the doctors are actually empowered to say, well, we could go ahead and off you if you'd like when it comes to people that are maybe not terminal, because you look at what's happening in Canada now, and they're offering medical assistance in dying in a lot of places where it's really, really, really not okay that they're doing it. Yep. You hear a lot of terrible stories, and like I said, the experience that I had when my father had terminal cancer, like they gave him a boatload of morphine. If you take enough morphine, your heart's going to stop. It's like that's just the way that the drug works. And I think that kind of stuff, I know that
there are a lot of things like that where you're like, keep it in the gray zone.
I mean, I just because as soon as you give the government the okay, just like Tim said, as soon as you give the government the okay and you make it policy.
Now it's an industry.
Yep. Exactly.
Well, yeah, I mean, so I believe that in any circumstance, intervening to kill somebody is wrong. And what happens is when you make this legal, and now it's an institution, as you all pointed out, it becomes an industry. On top of that, we've already seen, as you pointed out, Phil, how this is manifested in Canada. And we have to remember that anytime we talk about normalizing something in the United States, that the people trying to normalize it in this country, in this instance especially, are leftists. And they don't function on the basis of allowing some new social change to occur and then just letting everybody else make their own decision without immense social pressure. Yep. So what will inevitably happen here is what happens with every other behavior or set of behaviors that the left normalizes. At first, they say this is just something we want to have so it can be allowed in certain really gut-wrenching circumstances where we can emotionally manipulate you into thinking it's a good thing. And then they end up expanding it to be something that everybody should do. And then they actually start shaming people who don't do it. We see this all the time. So in the same way that women will be told they have internalized misogyny if they don't want to go out and be a girl boss, people will be told they have internalized ableism if they opt not to kill themselves. Mark my words, if this becomes legal in the United States, that's going to be a line of reasoning you hear from leftists.
Look what's already going on, where the left was saying that no child is getting sex change surgery without their parents' knowledge. And then now we have a series of lawsuits from a certain number of individuals. And I'm not going to pretend here it's like in the thousands or whatever, but there's a couple dozen high-profile stories of minors who went to Planned Parenthood or went to other organizations and got testosterone or cross-sex hormones. Some got mastectomies.
Beasts.
And, well, their own words. And they've said that there's one trans man, a young woman. She became obese. Her hair fell out. And now she's like, what have I become? I can't believe they tricked me into doing this. And now they're suing and they feel like their lives are ruined. What happens when it's medically assisted suicide? And they go and they say, I can't live this way. The pain is too much. Don't tell my parents. And they go, okay.
Yeah, you're saying the edge cases look bad. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, it's bad enough we have lawsuits from detransitioners. Imagine what happens when a dad finds out that a euthanasia center euthanized his 17-year-old daughter without parental knowledge or consent.
Yeah. Well, and this is what Republicans warned about 10 years ago with Obamacare, when they said if the government starts taking more responsibility for funding and paying for people's health care, you are going to end up with death panels. And people laughed at that because we all have a normalcy bias, and also the phrase death panel sounded very bombastic. But if insurance companies can make money off of this, they're going to, right? And if they decide that they can make a lot of money selling someone a pill that will end that person's life, or people in the medical industrial complex figure out they can, sell this treatment, that quote unquote treatment that ends a person's life, and it'll be less expensive for the insurance companies than funding whatever treatment could get the person in a healthy state. I mean, you have all of the economic incentives aligned for people to push the suicide pills the exact way they push all sorts of other medications that we know are bad for us.
If you actually do believe that healthcare should be between a patient and a doctor, the last thing you want to do is make a policy about death for patients, because then you're just like you said, you're gonna get all kinds of bureaucracy involved in it, and it should remain something that stays between the family and the doctor. So if you believe that healthcare is between a family and a doctor, don't make a policy about it.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.